started on Monday. On Tuesday, we went back to the CEO. We said to her, forget the study, give us
Yeah.
8 weeks. And
Yeah.
8 weeks later, we had not only filled all their demand, the 40% extra, but we went from a 7 to a 5-day work week.
Yeah. Incredible, right?
It seems impossible. It seems like magic. But what it was
Hey, welcome to the podcast. I'm Mike LaVista. I'm the CEO and founder of Caxy Interactive. Our specialty is working with companies who want to figure out how to use software and AI for offense in their business. And I am joined today by Tim Van Mieghem, who is one of the founding partners of the ProAction Group. And I'll let you talk about all of the amazing mysteries that you guys solve going into new businesses.
yeah. Thank you, Mike, and appreciate the invite. Very glad to be here. Uh, we work with business owners, especially privately held, a lot of family owned businesses and private equity firms. And the two kind of go together. When we work for a PE firm, they hire us to look at the company they're about to buy, to understand, is there hidden risk? What would prevent them from being able to scale the company? Would they have to make investments to maintain the current performance in the future? And two, the hidden value. And I'll be like, it's interesting. We get hired because of the risk side. They want to know that what they're buying is going to be able to do what they're hoping it'll do. What's exciting about it afterwards is the value creation side. It's understanding what oftentimes business owners don't even know about their own business, the true value of it.
Yeah.
Some of it's hidden under the ground or hidden under a rock. It's sometimes it's not obvious, and it can be very meaningful.
Yeah, and it's funny. So one of the reasons this topic came up for us is we just did a great event in Denver with a number of business owners and private equity, and maybe we'll get into that a little bit later. But one of the things I'm always reminded about as you say that is that a lot of times business owners have an idea that the business is doing what it can do. Like this is all we can do. And sometimes coming with a different lens, I think especially, I think you're often finding another 30%, 50% just with no new sales, no new nothing, just relooking at how you're operating. And there's hidden money under the cushions, and it's a lot. And I wonder if you talk about like that mindset of maybe taking a step back and saying to yourself, I wonder if there's a different way to do this, and maybe there's hidden stuff under the couches. Talk about
Yeah,
that a little bit.
and I'll start off with this. Every business has a shocking amount of profit hidden under the surface. And one learned this over a 40-year career. And I know what everybody's thinking. There's no way I could be in a career for 40 years. I look way too young, but it
Hair is
is
great.
true.
I mean, yeah, there's nothing. Yeah,
But the it's looking for sometimes it's one or two kind of lever points or key areas that when you pull or push a value lever, that it accelerates the business, it speeds up, it allows them to take out waste and things that are non-value added that frankly take up a lot of our time. uh, and the metaphor, I'm going to bring back an old memory. For some of our audience will know this, others will have to look it up, but the Beverly Hillbillies, do you remember
mm,
that show,
yeah.
Mike?
Up from the ground came a
Ground
bubbling
came a
crude.
bubbling crude.
Yeah,
Exactly. And think about this. This blew my mind when I thought about this. One day he gets up and his farmland is worth hundreds of dollars. He's got a great life with his family, and he goes out walking, hunting for food, and accidentally misses, shoots into the ground, and of course finds out that his farmland is actually an oil field,
right.
right? And overnight, his land has gone from being worth hundreds of dollars to hundreds of millions of dollars. And here's the part that blew me away. How much of the oil did he add? None of it. It was
Yeah,
already there. And Mike, that is what we're talking about is the value that many businesses have is already there. Talking about creating a new market, going after something new, adding a new facility. It's simply understanding the true capability of what you've already built.
Yeah. You know, what's interesting, I've always liked the title of your show and that idea of shocking profit. And I wonder if you might think about and talk about why it's a shock. Because the great thing about the analogy with Jed Clampett is, to your point, he's out there and just sort of by accident shoots into the ground.
Exactly.
But business owners, I think, are out there looking for ways to optimize. I know I am for my own business. I know we go into
Amen.
other companies. And why do you think it's actually a shock?
Yep.
Why is that?
There's some very good reasons for this, Mike. And because here's the thing, every business owner, they're smart, they're hardworking. They created something from nothing, right? And even if they came in and now they're leading it after, someone else started it, it's hard. It's not easy. And you're constantly reacting to customer needs, changing markets, competition, AI. There's all this stuff that makes it hard to get out of the day to day
Yeah.
and to simply step back and be curious. So that's one aspect is
Huh.
we're spending all our time serving the customer. The second piece is we get used to what we're used to. We get used to things being true.
Yeah.
It's and it's it's sometimes it's unsettling as well as shocking when somebody learns that what can be accomplished with their business because it's so different than their experience that they've had for 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
And and so it was hidden before. It's been there for so long. Trying understanding the different levers that could make a difference, it just doesn't come up. And there's
Yeah.
also inertia. When we do things a certain way, it's hard to change, and it should be hard to change. We don't want to willy-nilly just do different things all the time. There's no stability. So being first, having the time to step back and be curious, to look at your business with a fresh eye, sometimes to bring in somebody with a different perspective.
Yeah.
Uh, eh, Here's a really interesting example. I'm working in many different industries sometimes gives a great lesson. Some of our clients are in aerospace, and we often you might hear the term Six Sigma quality,
Mhm.
which is listed. It's out there as sort of a standard quality level, a high quality level, and it means six. There's a certain amount of exceptions out of a million parts.
Yeah.
Well, if airlines, if airplanes were at Six Sigma quality levels, a plane would fall out of the sky every day.
Right.
They're so far beyond
Yeah.
Six Sigma quality. That's example A. Example B, we walk into a food manufacturing company, and I'm not kidding. Sometimes the scrap rates are 8, 10, 12%, and it's not considered an issue because it's always been true. The ingredients aren't that expensive, what have you.
Yeah.
And but when you step back and say, what's the benefit of getting really good at operating our plant without that 8 or 10 or 12% scrap, or what scrap is actually required by design and what's uh, addressable, controllable, it opens up our thinking. And within the food industry, it may never come up, but when you get to go and look at other industries like aerospace, it brings a new perspective.
And it's funny, I think one of the things I always think about is, to your point about, scrap rate being whatever it is in a company. I think a lot of times companies just get used to that's what it is, right?
Exactly.
And even though you may know other people in your industry and you talk to people at the conference, whatever, you might not know what's possible. And
Exactly.
even like within an industry, you might get sort of everyone kind of is accepting of that, but then maybe a new technology, a new way of thinking about things comes along and you're not exposed to that. And I think being open to those ideas, being curious about them, I think people when they see it, they want to devour it, but sometimes you don't get exposed to it. And I always think about this idea, it's maybe a funny analogy, but like your grandma's house has like a smell to it, right?
Oh yeah.
And and
I miss
when
that
you
smell.
right? When you yeah, exactly. When you go to
Yeah.
your grandma's house, you're like, "Oh, that's grandma's smell," right? But then like an
Yes.
hour later you don't notice it anymore, right?
Right.
And so one of the things I always think about, like, even like, forget consultants, like new hires in your company will
Mhm.
see the crazy stuff you do. And I think one of the opportunities that sometimes people miss is ask the new people what stands out to them as potentially an issue. And well, our old company, we had scrap rate at like 4%. Why are we at 6 or 8? I don't get it. And because of after a while, I don't get it. And because of after a while, they're going to be living in grandma's house and the smell is going to be just
Goes
part of
away.
whatever it is. And so I know a lot of times when we come in for the first time, the things you see, and especially if it's like through a lens, like you're looking at an operating efficiency lens, I might be looking at a technology or a data lens or something. Um, there are things that almost like jump off the page in the first
Mhm.
hour or two. I think you even said you walk through a plant in an hour and you'll find, a couple $1 million. I feel the same way. And I think it's just having, um, uh, access and curiosity together. I think you can always find something. I'm curious, what do you think about that grandma's house analogy?
It's a great analogy,
Hey.
and it's way better than the, old frog in a hot tub,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
kind of a cliche now, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's a cliche because of the truth in it,
Yeah.
and and it helps to explain. We did a project once for a fish processing company. Uh, I was just with my colleague who worked on that project with me, and we were reminiscing, and they landed Sam's and Costco in the same quarter.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and for 10 minutes, they had the champagne out and were celebrating. And then somebody said, "Oh, wait a second. We now have to double our output."
Yeah.
And when they called us, they were running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and they were 40% short.
Wow.
And here's the thing, Mike. Here's the brutal fact or belief I have anyway. If they could have built a factory in time to fill that demand, they would have done it.
Hmm.
They would have, because that's the accepted normal approach. Hey, we're already running 24/7. What are we going to do?
Yeah.
Right. And we got a chance to come in and tour the facility. They hired us to do a 3-week study to say, can you fit enough equipment in your current factory to get the throughput? To your point, we started on Monday. On Tuesday, we went back to the CEO. We said to her, forget the study, give us
Yeah.
8 weeks. And
Yeah.
8 weeks later, we had not only filled all their demand, the 40% extra, but we went from a 7 to a 5 day work week.
Yeah. Incredible, right?
It seems impossible. It seems like magic. Uh, but what it was a systemic walkthrough of their process, uh, backwards, starting from the
Right.
end. What pace do we need to run to get that 40% extra?
Right.
And when we did that, we realized there were ways for us to get to that man level, that pace, that tech time in every operation. That simple approach and clarity is because that's all we do.
Right.
They did not have time to sit back and say, what if, and brainstorm, especially since they've been in grandma's house for the last 40
Yeah.
years.
It's funny. So I mentioned we did that event in Denver recently together with us and maybe like 7 or 8 other providers and a bunch of business owners and private equity and everybody. And I was having a conversation with someone about when you're looking out to try to maximize your value in 5 years, if you have a grandma's house syndrome, what's going to happen is you're going to invest in that warehouse and eat away your
Yes.
EBITDA. And you're going to leave all this money on the table that if you just had that curious moment now, the degree to which you can grow is greater, the risk is lower, and your outcome at the end is so much higher. And when I think about in our world, in like the data and AI and software world, the story I've heard the most in the last year has been people trying to prep for some kind of growth out there in a few years. And ref believing that they could, as a manufacturer, for example, believing that they could come up with a software product because of all these AI tools. And
Hmm.
I can think of at least 3 customers we've gotten back a year later who said, "You know what? We wasted a whole year trying to figure this out ourselves, and could we get your help?" Because I feel like with you, it's, if you're a fish company, a fish processing company, you have an expertise in all kinds of parts of the business that we can never in a million years know enough about. But there's an angle around, production, supply chain, something that that isn't necessarily the thing you brought as an expertise into the business. It just kinda came along with it. Like, so many
Mhm.
people aren't great at marketing, and yet they try to do their own marketing. It's like,
Right.
that's not the
Right.
thing you're good at. And
Right.
and I'm curious, feel like, what's the conversation for you that you think, so if you're a CEO listening to this right now, I think, yeah, great. Like, what's the thing I look out for? So Tim, if you're walking through a plant and you were to give just a couple of free pieces of advice here, and you took that curious step back, what are the things you're looking at that you go,
Yep.
there, there, there?
Yep.
What do you see?
Oh, thank you for asking. That's fun, and I'll, stop me when I go too long.
You have, I'll put the Jeopardy song on. You have 3
There you
minutes.
go. Good. The first one I wanna bring up is, it can be a question, you can certainly tell this walking through the plant, but how would you know if someone took 90 minutes to do a 60-minute job?
Mm,
Okay. And at one level, it seems a little innocuous, or, what difference does it make? And it's not really if it happens once or twice, but if if you just simply don't know, and your workers might, I'm sure they work hard, they're dedicated to serve the customer, but at the end of the day, if you don't know how the actual production or time spent doing a job compared to what it was planned to do or what it should take, that I this is going to be maybe hard to hear, but if that costs you 20% at least in pace. In other words, every job you do will take 20% longer
then it
because you
should.
don't know that it should.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's some exceptions, but they're so rare.
Mhm.
Sometimes there's a pacing operation that forces people to work at a pace, but even then it would be worth it to know. But that's the first one. The most
Okay.
important value lever is predictability. And being predictability requires a few things. One, that you want to be able to predict a good outcome. And it requires that you do predict it and that you then check. And when that doesn't happen, in other words, if another fun way we find this out is when we walk a plant we'll ask an operator, "Hey, how do you know if you're doing good? The day's going well." And one of the more humorous responses we get is, "Well, my boss isn't yelling at me, things are good." You
Yeah.
know?
Yep.
But if they don't know, that tells you something. It's like, can you imagine a football coach having to run a football game and not be able to look at the scoreboard or the line of scrimmage
Mm,
or the clock? It's it's it would be it would be very difficult, and that's what we ask many of our employees to do.
yeah.
That would be one. The second one is stress. When you walk through the plant, when you talk to people in the lunchroom, in the office, wherever, if people go home harried,
Mm,
stressed, if people are short-tempered with each other, if there's a bit of blame kind of going on
mm,
between people, uh, that is a sign. That is a sign that is almost as important as the first one I brought up about predictability. When there's that kind of stress is not healthy. It's not required. Think about the difference if you look at a, a basketball team or a football team, let's say
yeah.
in Washington,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah, yeah.
uh, right? Every game they go into, they're going to have stress, right? A good stress. They want to win. They're playing a great team, right? They're not going against a high school team. They're playing someone who's really good, and they got to figure out how to win. But that you can go into that with a sense of serenity, of being prepared, of being having your team's got your back, you got their back. When people start pointing fingers, backbiting, getting frustrated, uh, any kind of blame going on, that is a sign that the tax or the burden on the company that's not forget about what you're paying to the government for taxes. You're also paying a tax for uh, distraction, for uh, working on things that don't add value, that don't help, and
Yeah.
purely spinning your wheels and being frustrated.
That's really good.
Those those are the top couple, and I'll give you another one that's more observable. Uh, and this is for a manufacturing kind of location, but if you see inventory in the aisles, if you see dust on inventory, uh, if you see a lot of inventory between operations, those are all signs that we are making up for workarounds, poor processes,
Yeah,
whatever, by our investment in inventory.
that's really
It's the
good.
canary in the coal mine.
All right, so you've inspired me. I'm trying to think what would 3 questions if I were to give you if you're a CEO listening, you're like, what are things I can go look for? I love your symptom idea. So if I were to do symptoms, I would say, um, if and especially let's think about anyone who does custom quoting for something. So if you're
Hmm.
manufacturing and
Oh
you have
yeah,
a product line, but you're going to make a quote for something, um, ask yourself if the degree to which your sales team is making quotes and proposals based on data and numbers and a strategy around things like, your profit margin and what we're selling and all that kind of stuff. How much that is based on data and how much is based on gut. And what I found is if you think about it's actually kind of like you ever hear that analogy about how really a real estate agent their incentive is deals. It's not good deals, it's deals. And so they're kind of incentivized to get not the lowest price, but like they're not
an
incentivized to get
acceptable
the biggest
price.
price, right?
Yeah,
Because it goes for another 20,000, that's 20K in your pocket, but to them it's another 600 bucks, who cares?
right.
So, right? And so, and I'd rather close this deal this week than have it, go into the wind. And
Yeah,
so I find I'm not trying to throw salespeople under the bus here, but from a data point of view, what we see is salespeople, as a rule, are going to shoot the bottom edge of the margin to get the deal done that still doesn't get their boss to yell at them for selling it for too
right,
right?
right.
And so somewhere in there, I find that there's a data argument to be made. So our shocking profit that we'll find between the cushions is going to be just looking there at your quoting engine and how you do your sales and that kind of stuff. We're going to find money you're leaving on the table just within your company that your most successful people, surprise, are selling at the highest margin and the highest volume, right? And the people that are unsuccessful are being a little I'm trying not
Amen.
to say cowardly, but they're trying to just get deals done, right? And so if we arm them with data, they
Yeah.
can be more confident. Another symptom, and this is probably in
Hey,
like this, yeah,
can I
yeah, go for it.
comment on that
Yeah,
too?
yeah,
Like to take it one more step further and build on the data part.
yeah.
So one analysis we like to do on that is to segment quotes. And
Mm,
we'll segment them in quotes that you give to customers where you have a nice win ratio, customers where you don't win much, and then high volume or high dollar or high margin and low margin.
yeah,
One of the things that this is one that came up this last year, where a client, 41% of their quotes were with customers they had never won a deal with. And
wow.
and the killer part is now sometimes you want to quote just to stay in the game, right? You have to, but they had the same process for a quote they were pursuing to win and a quote that was a stalking
Yeah,
horse, was a stalking
yeah,
horse. The amount of time that it took of their salespeople to and then to your point, what can we learn about the people who are closing high margin deals
yeah,
and at a high frequency, and how can we replicate that with all the salespeople? And
yeah.
the arming with data and structure is a great way to help bring that consistency everywhere.
Yeah, and I hate to say this, we looked at some client numbers a couple of years ago where the bottom 2 salespeople, it was actually more profitable to let them go than to let them keep selling stuff underwater and paying them,
Yes,
right? Like, if
yes,
we do nothing else, just stop these 2 people from sending quotes out, right? And, that could be pretty interesting. So, yes, agreed. And salespeople are the lifeblood. I'm not trying to throw people under a bus.
yeah. Oh,
There are
amen.
things to
Yeah.
learn from the top end. Another one I can think about is, uh, a lot of times in businesses, Excel spreadsheets are the duct tape that you've used to hold the boat together. And if you see that, in fact, I often see that there are a handful of spreadsheets that one single person in the company knows how to operate. And if that one single person, we have someone we met recently where a person had to go on a leave for a second, and the 2 weeks they were gone was people remember as the most painful 2 weeks of all time. And that's a problem for you. And I've done the under the bus thing twice already. Let's do the win the lotto, right? Someone
There
wins
you
the
go.
lotto and they're gone, right? Something
Yes.
better they move on. Or if your business isn't resilient enough to get through a moment like that, or you've got duct tape, which is showing up in the form of spreadsheets, you don't really have a
Yeah.
system.
Right.
And then I think when you think about, for me, a lot of times what we'll see is um, those kinds of systems are error prone. You're just as likely to miss a zero or put the wrong client on the wrong line or
Hmm.
whatever that is, and then that replicates its way down. That's a place where again, if we're thinking about, that we have these conversations at these summits where we're talking about how to prep yourself to sell in 5 years. If you're doing that, any lightweight diligence is going to find these things and go, what are you guys doing here? And you're going to cost yourself so much money at the deal table that if you just had this conversation a few years, before, whatever your multiple in your business is, that's what you just left on the table. And these things aren't, it's more like they are difficult in the sense that it's change management, but
Hmm.
finding them, to your point of things we find them pretty quick, can fix them
Right.
relatively quick. And then it's a change management and training, blah, blah, blah. But the value is so outsized later. And the last one I'll throw in there is if you're thinking about growth, and it seems scary because the bigger you got, the less profitable you got, that's probably a combination of both of the things we're looking for.
Amen. It
Uh,
is.
because you start
Yeah.
doing things like, oh, we need another warehouse. You didn't.
Right.
We
Right.
grew. We need 10
Exactly.
sales, 50 salespeople to do all this work. Well, you probably could have done it with 30 if they had the right, all the, and those things all add up. And I think businesses just accumulate. In our world, we call it tech debt, which is you keep making these fixes, then there's a fix on a fix and a fix on a fix and a fix. And now 10 years later, um, your process is 100 steps. And I think, when I see you guys do like your value stream mapping, sometimes what you see is, all these steps that kind of go back, like when you see it and visualize it, you see the problem. But sometimes you're, again, going back to grandma's house, you're just living with it because that's just what this is. I don't know. I feel like I did a
Exactly.
diatribe there, but what are your thoughts on those three as ideas?
Well, there. I love it, Mike, because it's exact. Those are three specific things we look for
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Workarounds is probably uh, the one of the, it's a number one type sign that you have
Yeah.
that there's significant work being done to make up for not having a decent system,
Hmm.
a decent approach, a process followed by all. Uh, and it allows people, and it's dangerous because people become heroes. They're firefighters,
Yes. Yeah.
right? And they are,
Hmm.
okay, but they're being forced to do that by the company and the resources and approach and process that the company's providing them.
Yeah.
Uh, but so it has its own kind of momentum to continue on because people that feeds you when you save the day. I served this client, I made it happen, I expedited it, got it done.
Yeah.
It feels good, but it's also draining,
Yeah.
and it
It's
causes a
draining.
lot of slowdown.
And I will say, if you can get the buy-in, we found we've been really successful working with those people to create the solution. Because a lot of what they know
Always.
is
Yes.
the whatever the system was, whatever the SOPs were before, they missed all these edge cases that come up all the time, and they're the ones that know how to navigate it. Great. Let's take a step back because if you are talking to the same people I am, those are the people who stay until 9:30 every night to do this, or they're the person that has to miss vacation to do inventory, or whatever the
Yep.
thing that doesn't quite work right, they benefit from this. And I know like a lot of the
Yep.
scary thing is, are we going to eliminate jobs? I think the idea is, can we create a better system that people are happier,
Yep.
better? But and your idea, are people like tense or fighting, like the
Yes.
anxiety? That's such a I can't. I don't know if you've ever tried to calculate it. I bet that's worth millions.
Yeah. Well, and here's the beauty. First, you brought up so many good points there, Mike. One, we do not let people go on the
Yeah,
work we do. It doesn't happen. It
yeah,
does
us too.
not
Yeah,
happen. Our riffs are not part of what we do. The now sometimes turnover will happen, but voluntary. It's not related to other things, but we're looking for ways to re restructure people's jobs so that they actually are adding value.
Mhm.
And doing that tends to lead to growth, to uh, very good and fulfilling things.
Mm.
And you also, when you talk about preparing like 5 years from now, you do this kind of diligence to prepare for that kind of sale or succession.
Yeah.
It reminds me of one of the funniest little conversations that I've heard about, where a CEO is talking to a CFO and says, you know, we need to invest more in training our people. And CFO thinks about it and says, boy, but what if we train them and they leave? And the CEO thinks about it, responds back and says, but what if we don't and they stay?
Yeah.
Here's, other
Uh,
than it being a funny story, here's the aha here. If in 5 years you think about exiting, definitely do this analysis. Do a
yeah,
diligence. Get curious about your business, because it'll help you maximize and get the value of the business that
sure.
it really is or really should be. But even more important is if you're going to keep it.
Yeah,
Running a business that's built on good, solid processes, communication, a problem solving culture, uh, is so much more fun.
yeah,
And 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 this actually happened with my sister. She was exhausted running a business she started a handful of years ago.
yeah,
She started working on succession planning and all the things we're talking about. Uh, Last summer, she and I were sitting down at a family reunion, and she said, "You know what? I'm not selling. My business now is my hobby."
she fixed it.
She fixed it, and now it's fun. She spends
Yeah,
the time working on the things that she really can move the needle on, things she enjoys. And if she wants to take a month and go, sort of work in Portugal, she does
yeah. It's funny. I'm going to take your joke and I'm going to turn it into I'm at a third leg and make it a
it.
parable.
Good.
And I also feel like people who are trained are cared for and feel
Yes.
that. So
Yes.
sometimes I think you train them so that they stay.
Amen.
And, and I think I picked up a line a little while ago that bad systems make good people quit.
Yes.
And, so the idea that like we care about your skills, your career, we want you to grow and, move up and onward and maybe out, but we hope not because, you're part of this community at this company and you're creating all this value and, all these systems you create, you train the people, behind you. And there's a really good story there. I think there are a lot of things that are tendrils that come off of the training that really have a longevity to them that maybe people underestimate.
You know, uh, this might be piling on a little bit at this point, but here's the other aspect of this, Mike. The training, the identifying the real value, and then kind of the improvements we're talking about are often, like you said, they don't take long to implement. Often they're low capital. Sometimes there's big capital if a new actual system is needed, what
Yeah.
have you. But it starts in month 2 is when you start seeing financial results.
Mm.
And it keeps building on each other, building on itself as more people are developed and given resources and training and clarity of purpose and all these good things, that it starts it's increasing profitability, cash, and performance throughout the entire process.
Yeah.
It keeps feeding itself.
Those are really great lessons. So maybe as a final point here, um, if you're a CEO listening or CFO or someone that's kind of planning on some kind of event in a few years, um, hope you got something today. And I was thinking of this, if we're doing another one of these in Q2
June.
2026,
Hmm.
if you want to drop a note, drop a comment below that says exit fuel. we'll put you on the wait list. So we've already got some people there, but if it's big enough, we might get a different venue and make it a little bit bigger. So this sounds interesting. These are the kind of conversations we're having with people and trying to help them figure out how to get the most out of their business and the most fun and the biggest exit and the lowest risk and all kinds of great things. And it's a good time.
Well said.
Yeah. Well, Tim, great having you as always. And I'm going to plug something that Tim's got a new book out that everyone should go get on. Is it on Amazon yet?
It's on Amazon. It's you can get it through Barnes and Noble as well.
Okay. In the real world, actually go pick up a physical book.
Yes, Shocking Profit. Thank you, Mike.
Excellent. Well, it's been a pleasure, and I'd love to have you on again sometimes. It's always great, and good seeing you. Thanks for watching another episode of the Digital Transformist. I don't know if you're a like person or a comment person or a subscribe person, but do one of those to get more content just like this.